My intervention is not about Obafemi Awolowo. Rather, it is about William Benjamin EUBA. But it is important to put matters in context by emphasizing how difficult things were in 1955 when Awolowo intervened, which is just about 68 years ago today. And let me emphasize that part again. In 1955, there was still illiteracy, mass illiteracy, and that was how revolutionary free education at primary level was. Can you therefore then imagine how bad things were, how dire they were in 1913 when William Benjamin EUBA opened the doors of Ekoba High School to the public to come and get educated? That was 110 years ago today. That was 42 years before free education started. Those people, by coming to the same school, sitting in the same classrooms, eating together, participating in sporting activities together, have learned that we are not different from one another, even if we speak different languages. After all, as Bishop Desmond Tutu of blessed memory argues in his book, God is not a Christian. And he goes further to posit that the languages we speak and the faith we profess are not divine. On the contrary, they are products of where we were born and to whom we were born. And he says that where we were born and to whom we were born are accidents that we do not control. I have had the privilege on my job to go around this country by road, traveling 12 hours a day across the 36 states. I've done this twice. And it is such a beautiful country in its diversity. And we must not surrender it to the few merchants of evil and merchants of hate. Today, we have many presidential candidates. And I think there are about 4 of them who are frontline candidates. The interesting thing is that 3 of those 4 used to be under one umbrella in 2018. Only Asiwaju stood differently. And more interesting is the fact that 2 of the candidates used to share the same umbrella. The question to ask is that between 2018 and 2019, when they shared the umbrella, what has changed? Has the will become more versatile than the umbrella? Or have their interests and ambition taken different paths?
My name is Dr. Femi Adesina, and I have a question for the Honorable Minister. First, a comment. I would like to say, what a wonderful speech. My question, sir, with your speech, I want to ask you, why are you not running for president?
To the first question, I think I've answered that question. Why am I not running for president? I'm running for president, and there's a vacancy that I'm trying to fill, being a better father at home and being a better husband at home. That's a very serious presidential task. And that's where I'm running now. I've been away from them for 21 years, so that's the presidency.
We have a merit award for you. We are presenting to you virtually, and our president will arrange to get them to you. Thank you very much.
I stretch my hands virtually to receive. Thank you so very much. It's very kind and generous of you, sir.
According to research by the University of Michigan, there are an estimated 10,000 distinct religions globally. For record purposes, Ekoba High School was also the 15th oldest institution in Nigeria. To impress on you what a great man Reverend EUBA was, Ekoba High School is the 59th oldest secondary school in the whole of Africa. Among the first set of students was the late Hollywood actor Orlando Martins, who was a thoroughbred Muslim.
You know, I'm a media person. I have been for almost 40 years now post-graduation. I've not done any other thing since leaving school. I've been a media person. But if I say that the media is part of the problem of our country, I can defend that anywhere. 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 When I say they must address themselves to productive nationalism, I'm not saying they must be in bed with government. No. As media advisor to the president in the past seven and a half years, what I tell my colleagues in the media is that we don't want a media that is in bed with government. No. We want a media that is fair and just. A media that criticizes when it must criticize, and a media that praises and applauds when it must do so. For instance, if you have a story like Nigerian army neutralizes 100 insurgents or bandits, you find the media going to hide it somewhere. But if bandits killed 15 soldiers, or they attack the military formation and kill 15 soldiers, you find it everywhere. Banner headlines. Is that productive? The one that you find all the talk shows in the morning, TV, radio, social media, all of them are on the negative. It's unproductive. It does nobody good. It does the country no good. It does the media houses no good. It does the society no good. Anything goes in our media today. Anything goes. How many of us share things on WhatsApp without authenticating? How many? You just see something and then you begin to share with all members of your group. Have you authenticated it? We must be discriminatory in the things we consume from the media, particularly the social media variant.
On behalf of Ekoba High School All Student Association, we present this merit award to you in recognition of your immense contribution towards the upliftment of our school, humanity, and your moral support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Taking time to join us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, my sincere appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Chairman of the occasion, Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, His Excellency BABATUNDE RAJI FASHOLA, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media, Mr. Femi Adesina, the BOT Chairman and members of BOT, Kábíyèsí Aláyélúwà the Olú of Oregon Land, Ọba Olúṣẹ̀san Olúkúnmi Akíngbọ́lá, Kábíyèsí o. Principal of the school,
service club members, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, on behalf of myself and the National Executive Committee of Ekoba High School Boys Association, Ekoba, express heartiest congratulations to the entire members of Ekoba, students, teaching and the non-teaching staff of EBHS, on the occasion of the 110th Founders Day Anniversary celebration of Ekoba High School, Mushin, Lagos, as well as the first Reverend Benjamin Euba Memorial Lecture. Before I proceed, I give thanks with my welcome address. I will first and foremost wish to appreciate the Lord's faithfulness to all of us. Looking back to what the Lord has done over the past 110 years of the existence of the school, we cannot but give all honor, glory, majesty, dominion, and adoration. We thank Almighty God for the gift of life, for His grace, provision, providence, above all, counting us among those who will share in the joy of the 110th Founders Day celebration. Distinguished personalities here present, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome and appreciate you all for finding time to grace this event. Your esteemed presence is a demonstration of your love for our alma mater, Ekoba High School, Mushin, Lagos. Looking back now to why Reverend Benjamin Euba established EBHS on January 13, 1913, we cannot but appreciate his vision and mission for establishing the school. We can categorically state that the objectives of the founder have been met over the years. Distinguished Ekorians, invited guests, I will not fail to regale us about our school, Ekoba High School, Mushin, and its enduring legacy as the first indigenous secondary school in Nigeria. The vision, as laid down by his founding father, Reverend Euba, I must tell you, remains as still sustained till date. What we all need is to guard it jealously and preserve it for posterity. But how do we do this and achieve our objective? My clarion call is for all well-meaning old boys and supporters of education to champion and promote Give Back to School initiative that the National ESCO has launched via corporate social responsibility, collective resolve, or individual challenge. In this regard, I cannot thank enough the various alumni associations or service clubs, as we call them, within the Ekoba family. Border 70, thank you so much. What you have been doing for this school is noted, and I know you have the capacity to do more. Presently, Border 70 are remodeling the old dormitory to 4 two-bedroom flats. And they are remodeling it for the teaching staff, because the accommodation, the building that we have, are occupied by those who have served the school before, have retired, and they are still staying there. So we need to ensure that the current teaching staff are also accommodated, and that is why we are remodeling the dormitory to 4 two-bedroom flats. Border 70, thank you so much. I heard people say, when we get to that bridge of the people that are occupying that place, we will cross it. I also want to thank Ekobana. The hall that we are in now, if not for Ekobana, what we are doing today, we will have gone outside to rent a hall to do this inaugural lecture. So on behalf of the executive and all Ekorians, we want to thank Ekobana Service Club led by Professor Jide Okunubi. Thank you so much. But we can see that this is not a complete edifice. We're all happy to be here. We rented fan, we rented lights. We need to complete this hall. The plan before was that this hall will be commissioned today by the governor. But because of lack of funds, we could not complete it. So I'm appealing to Ekorians that we need to complete this hall. So I'm throwing the challenge to all Ekorians here and those that are with us virtually that we need to complete this hall latest by end of February, because we are targeting March to commission the hall, commission the remodeled dormitory, and the two gates that we are erecting. The target is to commission them in March. So I'm asking, pleading with the Ekorians that are here and those that are with us virtually, that the ball is now in our court to complete this hall. If this hall is completed, we will not have the cost to rent fans, because this hall is going to be fully air conditioned. So we will come back and do launching today. The money that we are going to use to complete this hall, we are going to get it before we leave here today. And I'm sure we are all equal to the task, because this hall has to be completed next month. The other service club I also want to thank is E78. E78, Senior Peku. And most especially Ekorian Olajide Ode Martins. He facilitated the 3 classroom block that we have there under the Ministry of Works, Federal Ministry of Works Special Intervention Program. So please, let's give a round of applause to Ekorian Jide Ode Martins. And that is what is expected of Ekorians. When you are in a position where you can give back to the school, please do not shy away from giving back to the school. We know how this school was when we were here, and we need to take this school back to what it used to be. Fellow Ekorians, there is still much to do. The sports arena, consisting of the football pitch with pavilion, basketball and lawn tennis courts, are still on the card. I enjoy all Ekorians to be part of the development of the school. We also call on Lagos State government to help with the construction of our proposed E-block. EBHS Mushin, this is our heritage and where we came from as worthy ambassadors. Let us individually and collectively come together and take our school to the next level of development for national respect and global visibility. Distinguished guests, today we are having the maiden edition of the Reverend EUBA Memorial Lecture. 2 distinguished personalities will take us through the topics for this year's lecture. Now we have 3 distinguished personalities that will be taking us through 2 topics today. We have the religious tolerance, panacea to peaceful coexistence in Nigeria, Reverend EUBA family example. And we are going to have the Honorable Minister for Works announcing His Excellency Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola will be talking on this, and also Ekorian Dr. Kola Ibirogba will also talking on this. The next topic is the role of media in productive nationalism, and this is going to be taken by Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media, Mr. Femi Adesina. This memorial lecture will be an annual event, and we shall make it a duty to invite Ekorians from all over the globe and other distinguished Nigerians every year to deliver the lecture. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate today, I call on all Ekorians home and abroad to let us join hands in taking our alma mater to greater heights. Make EBHS my school, your school, my pride, your pride, my love, your love, my heritage, your heritage. Up school, up EBHS, up Ekoba, be a proud Ekorian. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir. I do hope you can hear me. Let me apologize for my inability to be with you physically. And let me congratulate all of us Ekorians on this wonderful anniversary, the 110th Founders Day anniversary of the great Ekoba High School. Dear Ekorians, let me thank our president for that wonderful welcome address, and I think that he has essentially covered the field with regard to what I have to say. But nevertheless, I would still wish to thank all of you for the honor of this invitation to this year's Founders Day celebration, and in particular for inaugurating the memorial lecture in honor of the visionary Reverend William Benjamin EUBA, now of very blessed memory, who founded the Ekoba High School. I'd like to start by taking us to somewhere in 1955 in Nigeria, when the premier of the Western region inaugurated the free primary education program across the Western region, and what the prevailing condition was that led to that policy. Recently, I was having a conversation with young people, explaining to them how prevalent mass illiteracy was. Today, we can take for granted the ability to read and to write, and even to put meaning, because that is the best way I can describe it, to put meaning to numerals and to letters. 1, 2, 3, ABC. But this was unthinkable in large parts of Western region and in Nigeria in 1955. So people can now operate a telephone, identify the characters, save names and numbers. But this was not possible in 1955. And let us remember that those things we now take for granted were difficult headwinds for this nation, and we have largely put them behind us. Substantial numeracy with regards to ability to identify letters. The work is not finished by any means, but that has been a quantum leap. It was a revolutionary intervention. Because at that time, when people were not literate, one of the permanent businesses of that time was that of a professional letter writer. And yes, let me emphasize that a professional letter writer That's a business we have now forgotten about, but it used to thrive in Nigeria. And what made it... Hello? I seem to have lost my connection. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So that business of letter writer used to be a great business. In a whole community, it was probably only one man or multiple communities who knew what letters and numerals meant. But that vision, that business no longer thrives, if it still exists at all, because the monopoly of knowledge by a few has been democratized by the leadership provided by one man and his team. And that man was Femi Adesina. Today, my intervention is not about Femi Adesina. Rather, it is about William Benjamin EUBA. But it is important to put matters in context by emphasizing how difficult things were in 1955 when Awolowo intervened, which is just about 68 years ago today. And let me emphasize that part again. In 1955, there was still illiteracy, mass illiteracy, and that was how revolutionary free education at primary level was. Can you therefore then imagine how bad things were, how dire they were in 1913 when William Benjamin EUBA opened the doors of Ekoba High School to the public to come and get educated? That was 110 years ago today. That was 42 years before free education started. Interestingly, both events happened in January 1913 and January 1955. On a lighter note, and for those who have recently been indulged or involving themselves in the debate over who is the greatest of all time between Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, I do not intend such a debate between Reverend EUBA and Chief Obafemi Awolowo. On the contrary, I seek to celebrate the far-sightedness of the vision about the importance of education and knowledge to nation building, to peaceful existence, and to information management that enables people to make rational choices. Our school, the Ekoba Boys High School, founded by Reverend EUBA, and many more that have come after it, have, in my view, been the glue, a very, very strong glue that has held together our people in many more ways than we have either acknowledged or appreciated. Just imagine if we still could not read and write, and we could not understand each other's languages. Then you perhaps come to appreciate why I can talk to you in one language, inherited though it may be, but that was the language of education. And that has bridged communication gaps. So this is the background to my discussion of the topic of this lecture, which is, quote, religious and tribal tolerance, panacea to peaceful coexistence in Nigeria, the Reverend EUBA example. And the first point I wish to make is that the example of Reverend EUBA remains iconic because he set up a school that opened its doors to people from all walks of life. I have listened to the introductions and recognitions when this event started. People from diverse walks have been recognized, Koreans who have gone on to distinguish themselves. The importance of this educational tolerance to peaceful coexistence is easy to miss if we do not understand how strong identity is. That it is easy to miss the importance of education to tolerance and peaceful coexistence if we do not understand how strong identities are and how even more strongly people cling to their tribal, ethnic, and religious identities. For those who want to delve into the matter about identity more deeply, I recommend to them the book titled Identity, The Demand for Dignity, and the Politics of Resentment. That book is written by Francis Fukuyama. I will repeat the title. The Identity, that's the title of the book. And the subtitle is, quote, The Demand for Dignity and the Politics of Resentment. It is written by Francis Fukuyama. But for the purpose of today, I think it is simply sufficient to stress how strongly those identities magnify our suspicions about one another, how they inflame myths about others in our minds, and how they expand fault lines, which then masks the more important issues of our common bonds of humanity. And those are the things that we all share. It is the very early work and initiative of men like Reverend Euba and other missionaries of the time, undertaking to open up access to formal education for African and Nigerian children on a non-discriminatory basis, that has helped in no small way to bridge those gaps that are now being widened by manipulation of our ethnic and religious diversity. As I have had cause to argue on occasion, and I will repeat that argument, and it is simply this: if the creator of the earth has demonstrated the capacity to create diversity, certainly nothing could have prevented the creator from making all of us the same. The only thing that prevented him from doing so, in my view, is his infinite wisdom that our diversity should enrich us and make our planet better. Regrettably, it is that diversity that a few people, and I insist that they are few, it is that diversity that they choose to weaponize in an effort to deny us of the richness that the Creator intended for us. Clearly, I believe that Reverend Euba saw through their chicanery many years before it matured. He chose education as his weapon to put those few people in their place. And the place they deserve, in my view, is a place of irrelevance and a place of ignominy. Irrelevance and ignominy supplanted by the training of a large army of young people who have the understanding of both religions, who accept the minor differences in them and cling more to the fundamentals of a common good and a common humanity. Those people, by coming to the same school, sitting in the same classrooms, eating together, participating in sporting activities together, have learned that we are not different from one another, even if we speak different languages. After all, as Bishop Desmond Tutu of blessed memory argues in his book, God is not a Christian. And he goes further to posit that the languages we speak and the faith we profess are not divine. On the contrary, they are products of where we were born and to whom we were born. And he says that where we were born and to whom we were born are accidents that we do not control. And his argument, to which I subscribe, is that those accidents of the circumstances of our birth and who our parents were, matters which we have no choice about, should not define our essence, because we have a choice about our essence. Those differences should not be points of discord, neither should they be points of discontent. Rather, they should serve as sources of strength and richness, which in fact they are. It must be, and it remains to the eternal credit of Reverend William Benjamin Euba and others like him, that they saw these resources as sources of strength and richness. And that was why they opened their doors and exposed young men and women to education without discriminating. This has turned out a generation of young men and women who have become a large army of adults who have overcome religious and ethnic differences to contribute to national good and national development. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to illustrate this phenomenon of the outcome of the work that men like Reverend Euba and other missionaries did by telling you a story. But this story is one example only of many uncountable examples. This event happened late last year, on the 16th of December, 2022. I was invited to the Church Missionary Society, the CMS Grammar School premises, to open an e-learning center at the school premises in Bariga area of Lagos. That center had 300 computers. It had high-speed broadband internet. It had a fully equipped information technology laboratory for students, and it had many other facilities for librarians and teachers. What I found instructive about this school was that it was not built by the Anglican Mission, or by the Church Missionary Society. Neither was it built by a Christian. It was built by a Muslim, Senator Olubenga Bariu Ashafa, a two-term senator and now the managing director of the Federal Housing Authority. It was built because partly he was an old boy of that school. The Anglican Mission did not shut him out about 50 years ago when he sought admission there on the grounds that he was a Muslim. They could have, if they behave like the few who try to divide us. On the contrary, in their far-sighted vision, a vision similar to Reverend EUBA's vision, dating back to 1913, the Church Missionary Society opened their doors to him. And what is more interesting, while he was a student in an Anglican school, they gave him special permission to perform the holy pilgrimage to Mecca. This was the wish of his parents, and he returned to complete his education. I will just pause here to ask all of us to take an ask. Today, when we are overeating and overventilating about whether people should wear hijab or not to wear hijab, what do you think the conversation would have been 50 years ago? But that was a more tolerant era. Can you imagine now in a school owned by Christians, somebody wants to go to Mecca? But those are examples we must cling to and we must magnify them because they do not define us. So as I said during that event, when I was asked to come and formally dedicate the building, the question I asked is, what is a Bariu doing amongst Anglicans? Only the far-sighted vision of missionaries and men like Reverend EUBA could also have found a place of comfort for Bariu amongst Anglicans. And for me, Raji, in Ekoba High School. Yes, for those who do not know, I passed through this school. I was there for a year. So much for the religious side. Let me quickly just say a thing or two on the tribal and ethnic front. And I believe that what will be most impactful in breaking the myths about our diversity is for us to travel more across Nigeria. And I hear you, people will say, oh, it's not safe. And people will say all sorts of things. But this will not be with us forever. As our government continues to open up the country, building roads and bridges, I urge us to use them to understand the country more. Growing up as a child, I was made to believe in Lagos here that everybody who habited any place beyond Ore was a Kobo. And I leave you to fathom out what that word meant. But by the time I went to the University of Benin, I found out that there were no Kobos in Edo, then Bendel State. And that was well beyond Ore. I have had the privilege on my job to go around this country by road, traveling 12 hours a day across the 36 states. I've done this twice. And it is such a beautiful country in its diversity. And we must not surrender it to the few merchants of evil and merchants of hate. Interestingly, I'd like to share with you the fact that economic interests, economic competition, and perhaps even political competition brings the Hausa in conflict with the Fulani, brings the Fulani in conflict with the Nupe, and brings the Nupe in conflict with the Idoma. But the unspoken secret is that matters of the heart, love and marriage, bring them together when it suits them. And their differences transcend their disagreement, then does not matter when matters of the heart, matters of affection, and matters of love. And this is how it should be. Many of us will remember Ife and Mudakeke, and you will remember Aguleri and Umuleri, and you will remember the TV and the Jukun, all well dominated and documented in our history. These are examples of tribal differences that have been allowed to escalate, that have cost human life, but thankfully that we have managed either to put behind us or to bring under control. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close by giving you the political side of these tribal, ethnic, and religious differences. Today, we have many presidential candidates, and I think there are about 4 of them who are frontline candidates. The interesting thing is that 3 of those 4 used to be under one umbrella in 2018. Only Asiwaju stood differently. And more interesting is the fact that 2 of the candidates used to share the same umbrella. The question to ask is that between 2018 and 2019, when they shared the umbrella, what has changed? Has the will become more versatile than the umbrella? Or have their interests and ambition taken different paths? Thankfully, those 2 candidates are doing their best to offer us some civility around the campaign, and this must be encouraged. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me close by saying that Reverend EUBA's place in Nigeria's quest for peaceful coexistence is a place of legends. We cannot thank him enough. And I only wish and pray that his kind, generous, and visionary soul continue to rest in peace. And I hope that his example will continue to inspire our nation. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for inviting me.
I'll be upstanding and give him a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. We will entertain 3 questions. We're going to entertain 3 questions, sir. The first question, sir.
My name is Dr. Femi Adesina, and I have a question for the Honorable Minister. First, a comment. I would like to say, what a wonderful speech. My question, sir. With your speech, I want to ask you, why are you not running for president?
Your Excellency, I'm Ekoran Dr. Akibusari. I was part of the delegation that met you when you were the governor in 2011, when we were led by our late president, Ekoran Chief Idousofola SAN, MON, of the blessed memory. During your first time when we were in your office, I still have the picture you took with us. When we met you then, and we made our views known to you in respect of the extent of dilapidation our school was at that time, I remember clearly what you told us. You said your government did not have money to develop both the site where we are today and Abidjan. And you told us then that we should go back home and come back to you after making our decision known, and we came back to you. And when we came back to you in 2014, you gave us the 18 classroom block at Abidjan. Please let us appreciate him. I was the PRO then. Now you are the Federal Minister of Works and a Korean. Sir, where we are today, we still need you. We need you where we are. We've made several efforts in respect of Abidjan. But when we met the present governor, we see that there's a litigation on Abidjan land, which we were not aware of then. Today, I have had cause to go to the Minister of Education several times. And we were told that the fencing of the Abidjan land has been allocated. But we should move away from doing the fencing so that the Omunile will not attack us. Your Excellency, as an Ekorian, please, we need your support. What effort can you do? Because you told us then that that land was given to us by Governor Ahmed Tinubu through our late Ekorian, Justice Muri Okunla of the blessed memory. That land still belongs to EBHS, and we must not lose that land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third question, please.
Your Excellency, my name is Rotimi John. I am a lawyer. I'm an Ekorian. My question follows on what the last person who asked question. You are aware of the state of the school, even in Mushin, the block which all of us are proud of. I'm sure you are proud of that block. It was broken down for reasons we don't know. That building is the totem or the symbol of the school because it represents for us EUBA. It was destroyed, pulled down, even up to this moment. This is in shambles. We ask, what can you do to help us to regain our old status, being the first indigenous school in Nigeria, also being the first school that called the bluff of religious skepticism and so on. We ask, what can the Honorable Minister do for us?
Your Excellency, sir, those are
Yes,
the questions on ground, sir.
Okay, let me start from the last one and just say that, as you all know, I am a public servant. Ekoba High School is a private initiative. And as the last speaker pointed out, being my learned colleague, he knows all too well the laws and regulations about compliance and stuff. So this is something that we as products of that school must think through. It's not just what can I do as one person. As one person, I can do very little, if anything. But for me, I share the sentiment about the iconic and totemic nature of that block. I remember it very, very clearly in my mind's eye. So it is for us as a people to decide what we want to do. And it is only when we have developed a plan that we really have a problem. If we don't have a plan, we don't have a problem. When we have developed a plan, then the problem that arises, how do we implement the plan? What is it going to take? That is when we can begin to then say, oh, you can bring the firewood, you go and bring the water, you go and bring the spice, you go and light the, and we assign the responsibilities. And in that sense, we can also then leverage our different privileges in the private and public sector to see how much we can get people to support our own modest efforts wherever they end. But we must start this journey by ourselves. So I will be willing to see such a plan and to discuss it further about its implementation viability. To the second question from Dr. Busari, I am surprised. Well, let me not say I am surprised, really. But I still, well, surprise is a thing. Government title must be inviolate. So to that extent that government has given land to an institution, that title should ordinarily be unimpeachable. But I am not surprised that in these days, some of our colleagues, my professional colleagues, have litigated even the most difficult positions sometimes. And my response to the information that the land is under litigation is first to say that, look, Ekoba High School, Old Boys Association must mobilize all of its resources. You were talking about Rotimi John is a lawyer, and there are many other lawyers there. Chief Idowu Shofola's chambers is still there. There are lawyers there, and there are so many people we can mobilize to defend this case as vigorously as is necessary in order to protect first our title. Then I have no insight into what the Lagos State government is doing about the fencing. I didn't quite get clarity on that. So if you can send that to me by some way of correspondence using the same channels through which you invited me, I'll be glad to see what I can do. And if there's anything I can do, you can rest assured that I will not spare any effort to offer my own contribution to what is clearly a very laudable cause. To the first question, I think I've answered that question. Why am I not running for president? I'm running for president, and there's a vacancy that I'm trying to fill, being a better father at home and being a better husband at home. That's a very serious presidential task. And that's where I'm running now. I've been away from them for 21 years. So that's the presidency. And really, I think that the candidate of my party, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, is more than fit for the task ahead. I've worked with him before, and I know what capacity he has. And given where we are now, the economy is front and center, just as there are security challenges here and there. And security challenges are moving challenges, they're dynamic. But as I've asked people, what economy can we have if we do not have infrastructure? So if we could not build or repair Apapa Wurushoki Road, which evacuates our port over 40 years after it was first built, that's what we inherited. So what economy are we trying to have? That is the largest seaport and the busiest. So that's almost 60% of our shipping activities that can't come out of the port or go overseas. What economy will we have if after Buhari started the NLNG trains when he was Minister of Petroleum Resources over 30 years ago, we are just at train 7? What were the others who governed doing when he left? Now, the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kanu gas pipeline. How do you move energy if you don't build that pipeline? Since the Tinkan Island port in 1976, there has been no port expansion. Now, Lekki Port is finishing. So Buhari, essentially, this government, is delivering the hardware on which the economic prosperity we are all seeking will be built. Without the economy, those who are mounting productivity and all of that, I don't know where they want to produce. So for me, the next phase of this development is now what I call the software, the policies and the reforms. And that is where Asiwaju Tinubu has clearly demonstrated proven capacity, proven experience, and proven change. And yesterday I was on TV telling people about his reforms in terms of revenue generation, in terms of tax administration, in terms of public debt, access of the state to capital market, in terms of access to justice, the office of the public defender, reform of the advertising industry through LASA, traffic management through LASMA. All of these policies have been copied either by 10 states, 15 states, and across the nation. So for me, that is the guy that I would support, so that I too can also be the president of where I want to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, sir, the organizing committee of this 110th anniversary has an award for you, sir, which will be presented here by the BOT chairman. Can we have the BOT chairman, sir? A round of applause for him coming out to present the award to the Honorable Minister Ekoba BABATUNDE Fashola.
Our Honorable Minister of Works, Mr. BABATUNDE Fashola. You also have my name, Raji, so I don't know whether you are my father or I am your father, but nevertheless. I want to thank you very sincerely for the soul-searching lecture you have given us and the question you have so capably answered. We have a merit award for you, and the merit award reads, merit award presented to Ekoba BABATUNDE Fashola, SAN, in recognition of your immense contribution towards the upliftment of the above school, humanity, and your moral support. It's signed by our President, Ekoba Elliott, and the coordinator of the 110th Founders Day anniversary, Ekoba Alabi Subaya. And it's given this day, 13 January 2023. We are presenting to you virtually, and our president will arrange to get them to you. Thank you very much.
I stretch my hands virtually to receive. Thank you so very much. It's very kind and generous of you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my eminent guest, the Honorable Minister, I don't know if he's still with us, Mr. Femi Adesina, ladies and gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored. I have copies of this and we circulated around for you to go through. I'm deeply honored to share with you my perspective on the topic of today's discourse, which is religious tolerance, panacea to peaceful coexistence in Nigeria. The Reverend Euba family example. It is with great humility and respect for the memory of Reverend Benjamin Mokoda Euba that I attempt to dissect this subject, knowing with full appreciation the great sacrifice that he made and the immense courage he exhibited in bringing forth such a trailblazing institution, Ekoba High School, that has remained a testimony to the values he espoused. This serves as a constant reminder to us as a nation to coexist with one another, irrespective of our differences, including as it relates to our religious diversity. The two key words in the topic before us are religion and tolerance. First, I wish to identify what religion is, and we borrow from social anthropology, which sees the phenomenon as a dichotomy between the sacred and the profane. Tolerance, on the other hand, is the ability or readiness to tolerate the existence of opinions or behavior contrary to one's. Let me define religious tolerance as the ability by people to recognize and respect the cosmology and worldview of others. In other words, the appreciation of the spiritual values, beliefs, and practice which are different from your own. According to research by the University of Michigan, there are an estimated 10,000 distinct religions globally. The Pew Research Center found that 84% of world's population is affiliated with Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, or some form of folk religion. The platform also submits that the religiously unaffiliated demographic includes those who do not identify with any particular religion, atheists and agnostics. In Nigeria, we have two dominant religions, Christianity and Islam. But we also have a sizable number of those who subscribe to traditional religion alongside these publicly professed faiths. Where there may be different religious faiths, what is not in doubt is that despite differences and sometimes sharp disagreement on spiritual grounds, there are nevertheless features that are common to these religions. For example, most religious faiths believe in the existence of one universal supreme being who presides over the affairs of humans and the entire world. They also believe in the institution of priesthood, the observance of a regular period of sanctification through setting one's self aside in solemn contemplation and of fasting, sharing beliefs with the uninitiated with a view to winning them into their fold, and when one dies, after sojourning in this world, living an afterlife. With these commonalities between religious faiths, one wonders as to why there is so much intolerance between their respective adherents. In Nigeria, and from the time of independence, there have often been bouts of outright violence between people of different faiths. It is said that the origin of religious violence in the country can be traced back to 1953, and while exact figures of these that have been killed due to this phenomenon from that time is debatable, what is not in doubt is that the figure runs into the hundreds of thousands, while those displaced runs into millions of persons. There is also a report of several acts of violence visited on people of the same religious affiliation, but of different denominations, signposting the fact that religious intolerance is not only demonstrated against people of other faiths. A society that wishes to grow and excel must have visionaries who can mobilize such community of people to rise above primordial sentiments. We should be able to conduct and weld ourselves into one in order to unleash God-given potential for development. Nigeria has been fortunate to have such people in diverse fields, and the late Reverend Benjamin Euba unarguably ranks as one of the most distinguished patriots. The Reverend gentleman saw beyond a religious intolerance of his era and recognized the threat posed to the well-being of nascent Nigeria that was emerging from the clutches of British colonialism. In particular, he was distraught by the discrimination and racism practiced by the white missionaries who owned and ran Methodist Boys High School, then called Methodist Wesleyan Boys High School. As we all know, the strong point of divergence between Reverend Euba and his erstwhile colleagues inspired him into establishing Ekoba High School, January 13, 1913, on the present-day Broad Street, just right across the road from the present-day Methodist Boys High School. The Reverend gentleman opened the doors of the new school wide open to people of all faiths, including mostly Muslims, who hitherto had difficulties gaining admission into 3 out of the 4 existing schools pre-1913. For the records, these schools were CMS Grammar School, founded 1859, Methodist Boys High School, founded 1878, Baptist Academy, founded 1885, King's College, founded 1909. Ekoba High School came thereafter in 1913 to become the 5th boys' school and the 6th secondary school in Lagos, with the inclusion of Methodist Girls High School, which was founded 1878, which was then the only girls' secondary school. For record purposes, Ekoba High School was also the 15th oldest institution in Nigeria. To impress on you what a great man Reverend Euba was, please permit me to dole out of some statistics, which I unwittingly omitted in the course of preparing this paper. Ekoba High School is the 59th oldest secondary school in the whole of Africa. Are you going to clap? And ranks 24th oldest secondary school south of the Sahara and north of River Limpopo. Ekoba High School thus became the only secondary school that was generous to people of other faiths and beliefs, including Muslims, atheists, and agnostics. To people of Muslim faith, Ekoba High School was seen as theirs, since the first Muslim secondary school in the whole of southern Nigeria and Southern Comprehensive College, OTA, was not established until 1946, 33 years after Ekoba High School. The establishment of this school opened the floodgates to 2 more Muslim schools, which came in rapid succession. Ahmadiyya College, Agege, in 1948, and Muslim College, Ijebu-Ode, in 1950. It is not surprising, therefore, that most of the Muslim notables of the period were trained, nurtured, and groomed by this great institution. Among the first set of students was the late Hollywood actor Orlando Martins, who was a thoroughbred Muslim. I'm able to say that I'm a very proud alumnus of Ekoba High School. I count myself very fortunate to have been admitted in 1968 under the tutelage of the very cerebral and astute Reverend gentleman and first-class educationist, Reverend Akinwumi Akinwale Adeshola of blessed memory. Reverend Adeshola was very meticulous and imbibed into us spirits of self-pride, togetherness, and the love for mankind and humanity. A case in point was the compulsory weekly contribution by all students This was termed SDF, Self-Denial Fund. Most of my seniors and classmates will remember Self-Denial Fund. The purpose of this fund was donation to charities in Nigeria, irrespective of tribal and religious affiliation. Reverend EUBA followed the principle of the late Reverend Adesina, followed the principle of late Reverend EUBA to the letter. I never for once interacted my schoolmates on the basis of their respective religious affiliation. In my first year in 1968, 60 students were admitted and distributed in 2 arms, Class 1A and Class 1B. Although Ekoba High School was a Methodist faith-based school, I can state categorically that over a third of the students in my set were of the Muslim extraction and faith. Others were Christians or different denominations, while we have atheists and agnostics. Well, to the big one. I remember vividly, we had a classmate who openly professed to be an idol worshiper, that is Babalawo, and was so brazen about it that we as kids were so meek around him and treated him with fear and respect, believing in his capability of striking us down with curses and voodoos. Despite all our differences, we were raised and trained to respect each other with compassion. We all loved and believed in our great school, and always at the top of our voices, at the slightest provocation, shouting, "In Domino," a Latin word for "in God we trust." Yes, "In Domino Confidimus," forever shall tune our song. "In Domino Confidimus" shall remain forevermore the motto of Ekoba High School. The late Reverend EUBA was indeed an enigma. To have taken the bold and courageous step of establishing the first private non-denominational secondary school in Nigeria. We need our patriots across all fields and faiths to lead the example set by the Reverend Gentleman to salvage our country and return her to the path of growth and greatness. Let us all leave this lecture with a renewed commitment to practice what Reverend EUBA preached and believed in. I encourage you all to spread this message of love wherever you may be. It's also important to spread the philosophy of accommodation, peace, and coexistence to others, so that together we may build a better world. May the Almighty give us the wisdom we need to fly high and live in a better world of peace. I thank you all for your attention. God bless you all.
Can we all be upstanding, please, and give him a rounding applause, please?
In Domino. Well, our respected guest speakers, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, SANCON, and Mr. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor on Media at the Presidency, Ekoba President, members of the Board of Trustees, the principals, our honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Ekolians. This is a time that allows us to consider what our aspirations have been over the years. It's also a time to reflect on 110 years of Ekoba High School. Of course, it's also a time for us to evaluate what we have been able to do to bring Ekoba High School to this state. Of course, success is not final. And most importantly, it is a time for us to remember the exemplary builders, Reverend Euba and Roberts, who have sacrificed so much so that you and I can be educated. We can better understand Ekoba High School growth over the past century and 10 if we consider the national context in which Ekoba High School was founded and subsequently grew. Ekoba High School was founded on January 13, 1913 by Reverend Williams EUBA, a Methodist reverend who desired to establish a secondary school that will provide educational opportunities for the less privileged citizens of Lagos, irrespective of their religion, ethnicity, or tribe. The objective of a Christian clergy gave many Muslims, including myself, and other ethnic nationalities in Nigeria to have secondary education in those days. In my 1957 class set, we had students from all over Nigeria and from all other beliefs and backgrounds. The journey to the moment is epitomized in our school song. Out of the island of Lagos, Broad Street, no oil mill could take us, no Rika, no Jele. Let me share some of insights from the book, The Making of Ekoba High School by Dr. Joseph Unjo. He wrote, land in Lagos Island and the adjacent mainland proved too expensive. To his internal credit, the school principal and the first chairman of the board of trustees Obadiah Roberts graciously made an offer that reflected his deep commitment and selfless devotion to the school. His personal landed property at Mashewele, where we are today, was offered to the school, and the offer was immediately accepted by the Board of Governors. The area declared by Ikeja Town Planning Authority as Ekoba High School zone was 8 acres. 1.3 acres represented the gift from Roberts, while the board negotiated with the owners of other plots to make this property here. In 1948, the building foundation was laid and was made in the form of E, representing the first letter of Reverend Euba. After that, then sang the boys of Ekoba High School, the chorus which rent the air, Pilots Us Home, Robots Safe to Mushin. The story and life of Reverend Euba and Roberts is the stuff of legends. It's a story of triumph of the indomitable human spirit over horrendous challenges and overwhelming odds, over severe limitations of environment and background. His life was and has remained a brilliant example of Christian living. And his achievements should be tremendous, to be a tremendous source of inspiration to this generation and the generation yet to unborn. On this occasion, we reflect on Reverend Euba and Roberts, whose vision, leadership, and hard work gave rise to this school in which we take pride and to which we now devote our own energy. Our distinguished speakers this afternoon will address some topical issues as we march towards another election in our nation's democratic journey: religious tolerance and role of media. Is religion a power for peace, or does it cause conflict? Sometimes deeply held beliefs can lead to clashes, and there has been many wars that have been caused by disputes over religion and beliefs. However, for many people, religion can be a power for peace. A message of peace and love towards others is at the heart of all major religions of the world. Peace starts with each of us. Peace in our hearts means peace in our families. And peace in our families will translate to peace in our community and in our country and the world. We must learn to forgive ourselves and let love, tolerance, and justice be our watchwords. Information is power, and insight can be impact on public discourse. This way, perceptions can be changed by access to media. Different types of media are utilized globally to distribute knowledge, and idealistically free mass media is a tool and signpost for democracy. In any culture of prevention, an effective democratic media an essential part and indispensable for societies trying to make a transition towards peace and democracy. Harry Truman once said, you can never get all the facts from just one newspaper. And unless you have the facts, you cannot make proper judgments about what is going on. This statement reflects the need for free access to unbiased information. On the other hand, media can be misused for propaganda purposes, to incite hatred and spread rumors, and therefore artificially create tensions. Our distinguished speaker, Femi Adesina, will do justice to this topic. Let us, however, remember, it isn't enough to talk about peace. We must believe it. And it isn't enough to believe it. We must work for it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Ekorians, starting today, let each of us live and work for peace by being tolerant, loving, and upholding justice and fair play in all our actions and deeds. At this critical time in our democratic journey, we must remember that people can campaign to break you, collaborate to alienate you, even worse still, create false testimonies to orchestrate your downfall. But when you are destined for greatness, you will be great regardless. Never lose faith. In conclusion, my fellow Ekorians, I ask you to please sing along with me. Will you please stand, O God of Roberts and Euba? O God of Roberts and Euba, to thee we raise our hands, praying that this smoldering ember of Ekoba's high school. May by thee be found forever into under a flame. Yes, in Domino, confidimus, forever shall tune a song. In Domino, confidimus, shall remain forevermore the motto of Ekoba's high school. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for him.
Distinguished gentlemen, I don't know if there are ladies in the audience because I know it's the anniversary of the boys' school. So if there are ladies there, I recognize them, but I know that it's essentially a men's event. I want to thank the organizers for finding me worthy to share some thoughts with us on role of media in productive nationalism. I've listened to the first two speakers, and I want to say it's a time well spent. But I must also remark that the time slot I was given was 3 to 3:20, and I had scheduled my other activities based on that time slot. So maybe by 3:45, latest 10 minutes before you permit me to leave. But I'll try to run through what I have here on role of media in productive nationalism. Let me also mention that my late father was a school principal. He was the first African principal of St. Charles Grammar School, Osogbo, in the 1960s. Before him, that school had foreign principals. So the late J.O. Adesina was the first African principal of St. Charles Grammar School, Osogbo. So I can identify with what you are doing in memory of the late Reverend Euba. So thank you very much for celebrating and recognizing a man like that posthumously. Now to our topic. Role of media in productive nationalism. I think there are three operative words here. One is the media, the two is productive, and third is nationalism. I began to ask myself, why was the word productive inserted in this topic? We'll talk of role of media in nationalism. It's a very popular topic. But you have said in productive nationalism, which I found very, very instructive. Productive nationalism. It sent me to look into the root of that word productive. What does it mean? It means producing or able to produce. When something is producing or able to produce, it is productive. It also means something which causes or provides a good result. A good result. Anything that is productive usually comes with a good result. They use it in the positive sense, not negative. And what are alternative words for that word productive? Synonyms. Taking you back to those days in secondary school, synonyms and antonyms. So what are synonyms for the word productive? They are fertile, fruitful, rich, high-yielding, advantageous, beneficial, constructive, and so on and so forth. So therefore, if we are talking of productive nationalism, we are talking of love for country, passion for country, fervor for country that is productive, that is fruitful, rich, high-yielding, advantageous, beneficial, constructive. So I want to thank the framers of this topic for inserting that word, productive, in the topic. Role of media in productive nationalism. What that immediately tells us is that not everything that appears to be nationalism is productive. That is what we are trying to establish. Not everything that appears to be nationalism is productive. We know of people who have the reputation of being nationalists, but the way they carry on, the way they speak, the things they say are not productive for the country. They are not productive for unity. They are not productive for progress. They are not productive for development. They are, in fact, divisive. So we will be talking of the role of media in productive nationalism. Nationalism that yields positive. Nationalism that is fertile. We are safe to conclude that this topic is intended to advert our minds to positive nationalism from the media, as opposed to hypercritical, pulling down, divisive tendencies. You know, I'm a media person. I have been for almost 40 years now, post-graduation. I've not done any other thing since leaving school. I've been a media person. But if I say that the media is part of the problem of our country, I can defend that anywhere. 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 The media has done well in terms of nationalism, fighting for independence, promoting Nigerianism, Nigerian consciousness. But the media has also done negative things to our country in terms of nationalism, particularly now with the advent of the social media. Anything goes now, however toxic, however poisonous, however divisive it is. Anything goes. Anything goes. You'll find that the sifting that we used to have in terms of what got published as fair for public consumption is no longer there. Anything goes. Anything goes. You even find the traditional media now drawing materials from the social media without authenticating. Therefore, it's very important that our media must advert their minds to productive nationalism. When I say they must address themselves to productive nationalism, I'm not saying they must be in bed with government. No. As media advisor to the president in the past seven and a half years, what I tell my colleagues in the media is that we don't want a media that is in bed with government. No. We want a media that is fair and just. A media that criticizes when it must criticize, and a media that praises and applauds when it must do so. But when the media is on a permanent hypercritical mode, it's not good for any country. And not good for our country, Nigeria. It plays divisive rather than unifying roles in a polity like ours now. For instance, if you have a story like Nigerian army neutralizes 100 insurgents or bandits, you find the media going to hide it somewhere. But if bandits killed 50 soldiers, or they attack the military formation and kill 50 soldiers, You find it everywhere. Banner headlines. Is that productive? It can't be. It can't be. It cannot be. So it is very important that we must begin to emphasize productive nationalism on the part of our media. Nigerian media was born into activism. If you read media history in Nigeria, Nigerian media was born right into activism. You had the West African Pilot by Zeke. You had other newspapers which fought for Nigeria's independence in that era. Then in the military era, media also fought for democracy. There are so many things that the media has championed in this country. So the media in Nigeria is an active media. Very good. But we must draw a line between activism and productive nationalism. Activism that leads us to the point of not seeing anything good in government, of only just criticizing and trying to pull down, is then not good for a country. The first thing we should realize is that there must first be a country, there must first be a united country before you can even thrive as a media house. If by tomorrow we are all running helter-skelter because there is internecine war in the country and thieves are attacking Jukuns, Fulani are attacking Hausas, Yoruba are attacking Ishekiris and all that, who gains? Everybody loses, including the media. Because the media man is not able to do his work, is not able to sell his paper, is not able to broadcast. We can see it in Kosi studios and allow all the hate speeches and all the negative things that callers call in to say. But when it boils over, even that Kosi studio would not be able to accommodate the broadcaster. So it is very important that our media must have productive nationalism at the back of their minds at all times. Nationalism, love for country, that is productive, that is fruitful, that is yielding, that is advantageous, that is beneficial. It doesn't mean that when we toe the path of productive nationalism, then we are already in bed with government. No, no. We can still do this work without necessarily kowtowing to the will and wishes of government. As media advisor to the president, I tell my colleagues, please don't write things that we love to see. Don't write things that we want, that will make us happy if it's not true. But be fair, be just, be critical. That is how the media can help to build a country. The one that you find all the talk shows in the morning, TV, radio, social media, all of them are on the negative. It's unproductive. It does nobody good. It does the country no good. It does the media houses no good. It does the society no good. Anything goes in our media today. Anything goes. And it's not good for the country. The media must advert its mind to productive nationalism because there is a nexus between a peaceful country and a productive media. There's a nexus. If the media wants to pull down a government within 4, 5, 6 weeks, it's too long a time to do it. They can do it in 1 week. Therefore, if the media also wants to be, it's very important that there's hatred for one another as Nigerians. And if we fall into that trap, that we begin to share and disseminate and celebrate misinformation, we are all guilty. How many of us share things on WhatsApp without authenticating? How many? You just see something and then you begin to share with all members of your group. Have you authenticated it? we must be discriminatory in the things we consume from the media, particularly the social media variant. We must be discriminatory. Seek to authenticate before you share, before you forward. Don't just automatically click the forward button when you read anything. It may end up not to be true. I was reading something that Professor Shoyinka said on social media 2-3 days ago. He gave examples of so many things that they have attributed to him, which he never said. Which he never said. And how many of us shared it? We need to watch it. We need to be careful. So be discriminatory in what you consume and what you share. Media people themselves must realize that they can only practice in an environment of peace and harmony. If the country is turned into a tailspin, the media itself will also suffer. So they should therefore sift what gets to them for public consumption. I remember in those days as a sitting editor, some of my reporters will bring things that are particularly libelous. And when I refuse to publish, they will come and say, editor, he said it. Listen to him on tape. And I take time to educate them. I said, the fact that he said it does not mean it's publishable. It does not mean it's publishable. If he said it and it's libelous, if he said it and it is incendiary in nature, it can cause disharmony in the country, then it doesn't have to be published. But it seems all those checks are no longer there in our media. Media has a big role to play. I'm concluding now because I need to run. Media has a big role to play in inculcating and sustaining productive nationalism in the country. They need an awakening to that as opposed to rabid opposition to anything in government. You know, a lot of people think that when you are rabidly opposed to any government, I'm not necessarily talking of the government of the day. I can only serve the government of the day and move on to other things. The next government will come, some other people will serve it. So if we think that when we are rapidly anti-government, that is nationalism, that will not be right. Productive nationalism is what we must begin to address our minds to as media people, even as social commentators. Because I believe a good number of us in the audience are invited to these talk shows in the morning hours, in the evening hours, whatever, on TV, on radio. When you are contributing, contribute with productive nationalism in mind. That then will be good for our country. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I pray that Reverend EUBA will continue to rest in peace, and Ekoba Boys High School, that is 110 today, will continue to grow from strength to strength. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Before you go, sir, the organizing committee has an award for you, which will be presented by the president of, the national president of Ekoba Boys High School Old Students Association, in person of Ekoba and Kayode Elliott.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you so much for the lecture. We've gained a lot from what you said. Like you said, the media is part of the problem that we have in Nigeria. I totally agree with you. Though some people here might not agree with me, but me, I totally agree with you that one of the problems we have in Nigeria is the media. And the media, you guys need to call yourself to order. On behalf of Ekoba Boys High School Old Student Association, we present this merit award to you in recognition of your immense contribution towards the upliftment of our school, humanity, and your moral support. Thank you so much. So, virtually, we are presenting the award to you, and the award will be sent to you in Abuja. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
taking time
Thank
to
you.
join us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, my sincere appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, do you have time for one or two questions?
No, we have a schedule at 4 o'clock.
Okay, sir.
Because of autonomy.
Thank you.
Maybe one. Let's take one.
Okay, one question, please. Does anybody have a question for him?
I want to ask you quickly, how do you react to negative news, particularly from the social media, the type that you said the regular media even sign on to? How do you react to it in the first instance? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, when those negative news come, what I expect the traditional media to do is to seek to authenticate it. And if it's authentic, they can go ahead and publish. But if it's not authentic, they should discard it. I remember I went to the World Editors Forum long ago. It held in Hamburg, Germany that year. And the conclusion of that forum was that we cannot do without social media. The world cannot do without it. But it is the duty of the traditional media to authenticate what the social media has published before they publish. But you find that it doesn't happen today. The social media comes with that rumor, comes with that fake news, and before you know it, the traditional media has latched onto it. That is not right. That is why I said we must be discriminatory as consumers and as media professionals. When that news comes, please authenticate. I remember last year when was it died in an accident, unfortunately. The rumor was that his wife and daughter were in the plane. And before you knew it, the traditional media had published it. Before they now began to apologize that they were misled. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. So, we need to authenticate. One of the cardinal maxims of journalism is when in doubt. When in doubt, leave it out. It's very important. We must go back to the traditional way of practicing journalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time with us, and we pray that next time when we call on you, you will be available. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
A round of applause for the special advisor to the President on Media, please. Thank you very much, sir.